Welcome to the Massachusetts General Hospital Frontal Temporal Disorders Unit Community Forum Friday webinar series. My name is Katie Brandt, and I'm the Director of Caregiver Support Services and Public Relations for the MGH FTD unit, and I will be your host for today's session. Access to information, education, and research for dementia. A spotlight on the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. We are spotlighting the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center because we want you to know about the research that's happening in a bigger way across Massachusetts and across the network of Alzheimer's disease research centers. You know that we talk so often about the resources available to those of you connected with our FTD unit community. But through the webinar series this winter, I want to let you know about more resources available through Massachusetts General Hospital, the larger Mass General Brigham system, and across the state of Massachusetts. So I'm thrilled to welcome two expert speakers to our session today. Lenore Jackson-Pope is the Director of Primary Care Outreach at the Center for Alzheimer Research and Treatment and the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. She is instrumental in educating primary care physicians about the warning signs of Alzheimer's disease and direct referral networks. Lenore is the former manager of research and medical education at the Massachusetts New Hampshire chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, and has supported clinical research operations for over 30 years. She is a registered nurse who has worked in both acute and long-term care settings. Lenore is passionate about the importance of clinical trial participation and is forever grateful to the many wonderful research volunteers she has been privileged to work with over the years. Nancy Coppleman is the Director of Community Outreach and Engagement at the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center and Center for Alzheimer Research and Treatment at Massachusetts General Brigham Hospital in Boston. She oversees MADRC initiatives, including the Community Advisory Board, Community Educational Program, Research Ambassadors and Care Partners and Speakers Bureau, as well as the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation Citizen Scientist Award program. Nancy initiated and leads Memory Sunday New England, a faith-based collaboration made up of leaders at the local, city, and state levels, focused on raising awareness about memory loss, aging, and Alzheimer's disease in the African American community. The year-long celebration culminates in the June event, Memory Sunday, which began in 2018 in Boston. Nancy also received a 2019 Partners in Excellence Award in the category of Fostering Community. You can see that the women that I've invited to our program today are dedicated to the research and work for a cure. Lenore, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for inviting us today, Katie. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate your partnership in MADRC and your passion in helping people get more information about research.
Thank you so much. And I'd love to welcome you to begin our program today.
Great. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Thank you for joining the conversation about research and the importance of research. Katie did my introduction, and I just want to say that it's an honor and a privilege to work at the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center with all the amazing folks working very hard to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about MADRC's mission. The mission of the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center has not changed much since 1984, even though the work has been enormous and the changes in research have been enormous. But the real mission is to support new research, to enhance ongoing research by providing core support to bring together behavioral, biomedical, and clinical science investigations in a manner that will enrich the effectiveness of Alzheimer's disease research and ultimately improve healthcare delivery, to foster 3 related functions: conducting multidisciplinary research, training scientists and clinicians, and teaching and/or transferring new information concerning Alzheimer's disease and related disorders. So how do we do this? Well, our teams work very closely together across Mass General Brigham to lead cutting edge research opportunities. And we also provide professional and community resources and education. The Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center has been on the forefront of dementia research and treatment since 1984. It's one of the NIH, the National Institute on Aging's ADRCs, Alzheimer's Disease Research Centers, whose goals are to find effective treatment and eventually find a cure for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And I'm from the Outreach Recruitment Engagement team, called the OR team. And we do 2 main things. We work very closely with the community to provide educational events and program with partner organizations to get the word out about research opportunities. We collaborate with faith-based communities and provide resource information. You'll be hearing more about this from my partner, Nancy Coppleman, later on. And we also work very closely with professionals. We collaborate with primary care doctors, neurologists, and other clinicians in their practices. We work with specialty practices. We offer diagnostic support. We offer educational programs for professionals. And we have a rapid diagnostic clinic where we provide second opinions to primary care doctors who need them, as well as help to those that would like to get a diagnosis to participate in research opportunities. So while we know that we're working towards a cure for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, we're not there yet. So we need to provide other services to people. People need clinical services, the ability to get a diagnosis. They need social work support. They need support groups. They need education, and they need access to research. And we have all of that across Mass General Brigham, both at the Brigham and the Mass General campus. And by going to our website at www.madrc.org, you can have access to all this information and find out the wealth of resources available to you. Now, since 1984, the MADRC has been targeting Alzheimer's disease in a number of ways. Many people have heard about medications and therapies to target the misfolding proteins in the brain, amyloid plaques, and tau tangles. But that's just one of many ways in which they target Alzheimer's disease. And there's over 40 clinical trial and observational studies now in need of research participants to help us better understand what's happening in the brain. You know, learning the role that oxidative stress plays in these plaques, and looking at inflammation and looking at vascular disease in the brain, and how the cells, neurons talk to each other, and what happens in the mitochondria, and how we can preserve mitochondrial function, and what is the role that genetics plays. And you can learn so much more about research by attending one of our events. We have several research programs where researchers will talk to you about the exciting work that they're doing. And if you'd like to learn more about a research event or register for an event, you can go to our website at www.madrc.org and sign up, and we would gladly have you be a member. So these studies come in 2 buckets. We have several observational studies, which don't provide treatment, but we learn a great deal from. And we have several clinical trials, which are both prevention and symptomatic. So to prevent disease, particularly in the area of Alzheimer's disease, and symptomatic to provide treatment. And what's the difference between a clinical trial and an observational study? Observational study is very much the way it sounds. It's observational. We determine new ways to detect and track disease. There is no treatment or intervention involved. However, there are many clinical evaluations such as memory tests, MRI, PET scans, physical exams. Some have a lumbar puncture, some have a blood draw. But these evaluations and these studies help us identify new procedures, new biomarkers to track disease, to potentially improve diagnosis, and to monitor people living with the disease. And very often these observational studies will help us to determine new clinical trials, which may someday find effective treatment and be a cure for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. In clinical trials, it often involves a new intervention or a new medication. Participants are randomly assigned to a group. They either receive an investigational medication or they may be in a control group where they would receive standard of care or a placebo, which is a sugar pill, which is a comparison to the medication they are testing. Most of our clinical trials, once people are enrolled and the evaluation period is over, go on to receive medication that has been offered in the trial at the follow-up portion of the study. Neither the study team nor the participant often know which group they are in. And the same amount of clinical evaluations are done: memory testing, MRI, PET scan, physical exams, lumbar punctures, blood draws are performed. And safety and efficacy in closely monitoring is measured continually through the trial. People are well looked at through our institutional IRB boards. And also there's a data safety monitoring board that closely follows how people are doing in clinical trials. And, our studies are very novel. Often our investigator-initiated studies, our researchers have a novel idea and get funding to follow these novel ideas further and investigate them through research. So in the area of observational studies, we have several novel areas that are being looked at, such as a study that looks at subjective cognitive complaints, people that are concerned about memory loss and memory changes who go on to have evaluations to see how that correlates with people that do develop disease. Digital technology that looks at using phones and computers to detect and treat disease, evaluating sleep, evaluating things like awareness of memory loss when somebody has this disease, and many, many more. And again, please join us at one of our programs on our events page at www.madrc.org to learn more about that. Now, we work with amazing research teams. You already know one amazing research team because you work with Katie Brandt at the Frontal Temporal Lobe Disorders Program and Research Center. But there are several under the MADRC umbrella, actually 8 groups that work shoulder to shoulder and collaborate to try to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. So I'm just going to tell you briefly a little bit about each one, but please go to our website and click on to the About Us page, and you can read much more about each center. But we have the Alzheimer's Clinical and Translational Unit that does bench to bedside study that looks at novel therapies. We have the Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment that does many phase 3 studies looking at getting approval of effective therapy, both in the area of prevention and treatment, many clinical trials. We have the Cerebral Amyloid Angiopathy study that's looking at vascular disease in the brain, stroke related to amyloid buildup, how that works in the brain, novel, exciting treatment. We have the Harvard Aging Brain and affiliated studies that are done to look at the earliest changes that happen in brain disease, and monitors people over a long period of time, comparing evaluations to biomarkers. We have the Frontal Temporal Disorders Unit and Research Center, which you all know a lot about, that looks at frontal temporal lobe and associated disorders, as well as supports and evaluates people with younger onset Alzheimer's disease. We also have the Lewy Bodies Dementia program that looks at treatment for people with Lewy Bodies disease, as well as Parkinson's disease, dementia. We also have the MADRC brain donation program, which evaluates people who give the biggest gift of all, whose families and they decide to donate their brain at the time of death, and they evaluate brain donations to help us learn much more about what happens in the brain and to find cures for Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. And then we also have the Massachusetts Alzheimer's Disease Research Center longitudinal cohort study, which is a natural history study that's really hoping to help us understand how dementia develops in the brain, enable scientists to find effective treatments across neurodegenerative disorders. So that's a little bit about the teams directly under the MADRC umbrella, but that's not all that we work with. We also work very closely with partners like the Multicultural Assessment and Research Center at Mass General Brigham, who work closely with us to help us provide studies and treatment for those who are at the greatest risk, for our Spanish speakers, for our Latino patients, and for patients in the Black community who sometimes don't have access to the research that we've been running, and we need to do a better job at making that available. We also collaborate with research groups outside of Mass General Brigham, other institutions, hospitals like Beth Israel Deaconess and McLean Hospital, and we work with major teaching institutions like MIT and Northeastern who are running studies. So we really try to work together with groups across centers so that we can answer the most questions in research. And we have a page on our website if you'd like to learn more about research. It's the Join the Study page. And again, if you go to www.madrc.org, join a study, you will find lots of information about research based on diagnosis or based on the type of research that you're looking for, that you can search for there. And if if that's difficult for you to do, you can call us or email us, and we're happy to help you. So again, we also have a social media channel at Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, where all of our resources and information are put, where you can sign up to get information that way as well. So we also know, though, that particularly during COVID, not everybody has wanted to come in to be part of a clinical trial, but people have had concerns. They have family history and they want to get in research, but they don't necessarily haven't wanted to come into the clinic. We're happy that we're getting through that phase, but we still have this option available for people. There's a prevention study called the Alzheimer's Prevention Trial, the APT Web Study, which is an online study designed to identify people who may be at increased risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. And they can have memory performance tests done every 3 months online. And if there's changes to those tests, they get connected to a clinical and research center at a major institution in the area. This study is a nationwide study, and we bring people in Massachusetts to the MADRC team at the Brigham side to evaluate them for this study. So We also know that entry into research opportunities can be challenging for those that don't really know what's going on with them or don't know enough about research and they're nervous. So we have other things available for folks. So we have free memory testing that's done on the phone for people that are concerned about their memory and don't know if they have an issue with memory but would like to know more. And we have a cognitive neurologist that oversees that memory testing. And should somebody have a problem, we will facilitate bringing them in for more evaluation. We also have a memory and aging cohort study, which is a gateway study that does memory testing with paper and pen and blood testing, but it collects information on folks and then helps them, if they're interested, go on to be part of other research opportunities. This is a one-time visit. It's ongoing. It's enrolling over 1,000 people, and it is a really good opportunity for people just to learn a little bit more about research and decide if they would like to move forward. Now, we don't bring people into research without really understanding what's going on with them and being able to support them fully. We don't want to waste anybody's time. We don't want anybody making an unnecessary trip. So we take our time. We talk to you on the phone. We review your medical record. We make sure the study is a good match for you. And if it's not, we work with one of our other research teams and our research colleagues to make sure you get a study that's a good match for you. We will schedule a time for you to come in and talk to us and then do a clinic visit. And we have lots and lots of information on our website so that before you come in, you have some information, you're informed. So we have information on the research process, what's done when you come in for a visit. We have information to answer your questions. We have infograms about different diagnoses. We have lots of information. So please, if you want additional information, go to our website, click on to learn more, and there'll be lots of information for you there to review. We also know it's not easy for people to get into research. Transportation is sometimes difficult. People worry about parking. Sometimes they don't have funding to come in for a visit. So it's important to find out. Each study is a little different. It offers different things, but find out if there's transportation, parking, a stipend available for the research visit, and discuss this with your research staff, because there is resources available. We want you to know about them, and we want you to ask about them, and our team is there to support you. And none of this can be done without our research participants. Our research participants are medical heroes. They are the people that go first. They are the people that help us change the course of the disease. Nothing will be done without our research participants. And we are very lucky because not only do we get to partner with the community and other professionals, but we get to partner with our research participants who are incredibly committed to help us move research forward. And today you'll get to hear one of our research participants, and we appreciate your partnership and look forward to hearing more from you who are listening today about what we can do to support people around research. So Katie told you that one of my main roles is to support professionals so that they can better support their patients and families. So we have a clinical partnership program. We work hard to make sure that our research professionals have access to research opportunities for their patients and families. We provide them with educational resources for their patients and families, as well as for their own benefit. We also provide consulting services, and we have a rapid diagnostic clinic where people can have a second opinion or get help getting a diagnosis, particularly if they have a complicated medical history. So I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Nancy Coppleman, who will go over with you our work in the community. And I want to thank you for your commitment to research. And I appreciate that you're listening today and that you're going to share the message of the work that we're doing at MADRC. Nancy? it's all yours.
So thank you, Lenore, for that wonderful, overview of everything that we do. It's kind of amazing just to hear about it all and a little daunting. So MADRC collaborates extensively with the community and has created several significant partnerships, including Dementia Friends Massachusetts, Mass Council on Aging, Union Capital Boston, and Memory Sunday. These collaborations help in reaching as many people with memory loss, their caregivers, and their families. And they also allow access to research opportunities, community education, memory testing, and resources. And what we found before COVID, we had upwards of 100 outreach events a year. And we found that it was very important to go in and build relationships and then find other like-minded organizations that we could collaborate with to get the message out. So that's been a wonderful model for us. As well, Lenore mentioned that MADRC leads Memory Sunday New England, which is a collaboration between faith communities and health community organizations, as well as people at the state and local level in Rhode Island at Butler Hospital and Balm and Gilead in Virginia. So that's kind of taken on a national presence, which is very exciting. Next. We also have an extensive research ambassador program made up of research participants who want to do more than participate in research. They often attend community educational programs and provide moving testimonials about why they participate in research. The research ambassadors are also meeting monthly now for focused educational programming. We have had 2 of those so far this year, one on our MADRC resources and the other on brain donation. Next. Alzheimer's disease and related dementias are sometimes difficult to diagnose and treat. Our Aging and Memory Loss Roadmap Education Series offers programs on when to be concerned about memory, behavior and thinking changes, how to discuss concerns with your primary care doctor and obtain a diagnosis, and how to access research opportunities. How to access caregiver resources when supporting someone with Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, and strategies to help prevent brain disease. We offer these programs through Dementia Friends Massachusetts and the Mass Council on Aging, which get the word out to the many senior centers in the 365 towns in Massachusetts. MADRC also offers ongoing virtual program featuring our roadmap every 6 weeks, accompanied by companion guides for all. This year, we will begin offering programming in Spanish, as well as Spanish companion guides. You can find these programs on our events page on the website. The OR Corps offers many educational programs and resources for the community and professionals. Next. Some of them are listed here. And I'm also going to add to the chat the link to the events page where if you're interested in events, you can register there, as well as my email if you have any questions. Now I would like to introduce Carolyn Ingalls, one of our research ambassadors. Carolyn has been instrumental in our Let's Talk Research participation programming, which includes small informal gatherings of people interested in learning more about participating in research and having their questions answered by someone who does participate. It is a great honor to have Carolyn here and to discuss why she participates in research, and hopefully she will inspire you too as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Lenore. Thank you, Katie, for the opportunity. I was just thinking about how many years I've been involved in the struggle. I'll call it the struggle because it is. My mother, I went on we went to a trip, on a trip to California in 1986, and I noticed that my mother was not right. I was with her for 5 days, day and night, and I said, something's wrong. It took probably almost 2 years to get a diagnosis from her, from a neurologist that, well, we think it might be, but we don't know, and there's no way of telling until an autopsy after death. So this is 34 years for me, which is a huge span of time in my life. I am so privileged and so proud to be an ambassador because, as I see it, my role is to give people information that they can use, that they can access and use and reflect on and say, yes, I can do that. Yes, it's available to me. There's help for me there. People can answer my questions. There are resources. So I will tell you a little bit about how I got involved. I did take care of my mom eventually. She went to live with my brother and his family in Pennsylvania, which was, we now know it's the wrong thing to do, to take people out of the environment that they know, transfer them somewhere else, and they're just more confused than ever. So that became problematical for my brother's family. They sent her back home to me, and I took care of her for almost 2 years. And then we found a wonderful placement in a wonderful dedicated Alzheimer's unit, which in those days, this is the early 90s, were slim, very slim and none, certainly in Eastern Massachusetts. So along the way, there were people who helped me with my mother's struggle. And I mentioned to Lenore and Nancy last week that she was participating in an adult daycare program in Milton. I live in Jamaica Plain in Massachusetts, and the people that were running that program said, you need to think about finding placement for your mother, long-term care, because she's going to need it in about 6 months. And that was just a gift. That was one of those things that was a bell ringing, get on the stick now. And there was no place I could go. None of what we have available to us today, the multiplicity of resources, none of this was in place or accessible that I knew of, certainly. So it took me a while to find a placement, but I did. And she really actually lived for another 3 years, and her life actually improved with the right treatment and medication and socialization. So even at her state in the process of the disease, her life was improved. Years later, fast forward to, how long have I been in the program, Nancy? Almost, 6 years plus?
2016.
Yeah, a long time. My husband had just passed away, and I got a mailing. And I don't know how I got this mailing, but I got a mailing from Nancy, and the CART program, the A4 CART program, about a study. And I read it, and I put it right down. I put it down. I said, I can't even think about that now, because it was shortly after my husband passed away. And then I picked it up a couple of months later, and I started to call, and I called Nancy, and I talked to Nancy for a while about why I was, in a way, I was hesitant, but what was happening in my brain, I wanted to know what was happening in my brain, or what might be happening in my brain, because the rest of my life was in front of me, and I wanted to prepare, and I wanted to live my life more fully, and in recognition of being, saying, doing, loving, probing, all of those things that I'm capable of now. And it opened many doors in my life personally. I can't underscore that enough. I changed how I approach life through this study, because I understand more about how temporary, how temporary life is for all of us. I'm 75 now. So, the window closes a bit, but I'm healthy. I'm participating in the study. The team that we work with is beyond awesome. I use that word consistently because it's just a 360 with a wraparound of 360. There's nothing that we could not have through our care and treatment team. For me, it represents a second, my team represents a second clinical set of caregivers that I can and do access. I have over the years. They know me really well. They're almost like an adjunct to my PCP. So it's such a bonus, such a win-win in my life that I'm constantly telling people about the clinical trial. I mean, I just bring it up in conversation. I'm in a clinical trial. And they look at me like, you? What are you in a clinical trial for? Because I'm articulate and outgoing, and they just can't even think that I might have a neurological condition, especially like Alzheimer's. So I tell them about the good news and the bad news. And the good news is that I'm in the trial. The bad news is that I was diagnosed with plaques and tangles, but we really don't know what that means yet. And we don't know when we're going to find a treatment. And I am very passionate about staying the course because I want there to be a treatment. I would have given anything to have a treatment for my mother. And that's, the family piece of this is huge. The dynamics about your family member that you're taking care of, their behavior, who the caretakers are, the overwhelming responsibility 24/7, day after day after day of taking care of that person. And in the case of a parent, you become the parent to your parent, which was a very heavy thing for me to understand. So the caregiver piece, and if you're a partner, I can't even imagine the dimension of despair and depression you could encounter with your partner, your chosen partner in life. So this is, we have the opportunity to discuss these things in our support groups and to talk to other people. I feel very strongly that I would like to mention all of the availability to thoughtfully talk about, think, and process in these trials, in these studies, to sit in your home if you want to go online to read a slide. I mean, it's, there's so much, it's overwhelming. There's so much, it's overwhelming. But to try to focus in on a couple of pieces depending on where you are. And I find that our team is very good at telling us where we are and specifically answering our questions. We have neuro testing, for instance. So I've had almost 7 years of neuro testing. And we really don't know what the results of all of this is until the clinical trial is finished and the data is compiled and all of that. But people have given me information about where I'm at, and that's empowering about where I'm at. I'm also impressed by the number of people in the trial who are more advanced in the progression of the disease than I am. And knowing them as I know them, I cannot identify the deficits truthfully. So that gives me hope. That also gives me hope and more inspiration to continue to participate in hopes of a research and to do the outreach to get more people to have more life, a quality life with themselves and with their families and their loved ones, and do things. And to do things, not to think that your life is over, to continue to live your life and learn as well. Expand your own brain in the clinical trial, which we've done and continue to do. I guess one of the last things I want to mention is the brain donation. I feel very strongly about donating my brain. My younger brother had MS, was diagnosed with MS in his 40s. He just died in 2020, sorry, the first year of COVID. And he had cognitive disability due to his MS. So he had a neurological disease. My older brother just passed away a few months ago. And I know he had serious heart problems and had a heart pump. The last surgery he had was a heart pump. And I think, probably had dementia type symptoms from vascular dementia that was undiagnosed because he was already in a place where he had a limited time to be on this earth. So I've seen it. I've seen it throughout my family. And I'm very aware of how much it means to my nieces, my nephews, I never had children, but I have a daughter that I acquired who is my child. To the people that will outlive me, to help them understand this disease that takes someone's life. They're still existing, but it takes your life away, and it takes away the life of the people around them. No matter how much you love them, it's a difficult road, with folks. So the more we do, the more outreach we do, the more explanatory we are about our services, about how to meet those people who have the need. It's a gift. It's a gift. And I think I can only speak for Boston. I can only speak of the vaunted MIT, McLean, Harvard Medical School, Northeastern University, Mass General Hospital, Brigham and Women's. I mean, we're in some seriously excellent company, and we're safe. We're safe here. And I think that one thing that the A4 in particular study provides that safe space for people to get what they need, whether it's treatment or talk therapy or support or ideas. And they let us know, the research ambassadors, they let us know that they could not be in business without us. And it's true. And to have, that's like a line on a resume. If I still had a resume, people say, what do you do? When they first meet me, well, I'm retired, but, and then I go into things that I do voluntarily. And I always talk about this first, because this has the kind of credence and gravitas that people need to, not because it's me, but people need to know that it's there for the taking. It's free. It's accessible. How important is it that you pay for parking in Boston? How important is it that you get a stipend for your time, for your interest? I mean, there's nothing that I could add to this program. Nothing, except more people to make it easier to find the treatment.
Carolyn, you were the bow on the gift of this presentation today. Thank you so much. What I could really hear through your words was the connection piece, the love story with your mom that started the journey, and how you're connected with a community of people today, the clinicians, the scientists, the other participants, and with your dedication to a commitment to continuing to participate in research and brain donation, you're also connected to the future of treatment and a cure. That is just so wonderfully impressive. It's reminding me, I remember the first time I heard the statement, the first survivor of Alzheimer's disease is going to be a person involved in research. And I heard that at an Alzheimer's Association event, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was thinking, my God, that's true, right? Who's going to have the first access to the treatment that cures or prevents? Of course, it's going to be somebody involved in research. And I think that your work to normalize it, to just talk about it with folks, that's the real work to help people feel like, oh, wow, that I could do that. I could make that phone call.
Right. And that's what it's about. It was my connection that, took it down, and I worked in health and mental health for years. I retired from public health and mental health. So I understand the world of health and research and collaborative data, aggregation and all of that. I understand clinical trials. But my connection with human beings who were addressing me as an individual, that they wanted to help and engage, that sealed the deal. That was it. So
So Nancy, Carolyn talks about how she received a flyer, she got information, and then she called and talked to you, because again, I always say people are connected to people. Yes, people come to MGH and Brigham, but they're connected with a person. So let's remind folks again, like, who could call and get connected? Is it only people who are worried about memory issues? Is it caregivers? Is it just anyone? What age would someone first be eligible to call and explore the possibility of participating?
So that's a great question, Katie. We get calls from people from all ages. We get calls from young people who are concerned about their parents or, other people in their families. We get calls from, people who are interested in research. We get calls from people who found us on the internet. Mm-hmm. And can we help them because they've just received a diagnosis and they've been sent home with no resources. So we like to say that, we can meet people wherever they are on this journey and try to help them connect the dots and give them what we need. In Carolyn's case, I was very new to this job. And I said to Carolyn, what can I do for you? And she said, you can call me every week. I said, okay, I'll call you every week. And so it was, it's not really scientific. It's just trying to say to that person, what can I do to help support you, build that relationship and, see what happens and let people know that you're really there for them and that you're taking their concerns, seriously. And that they've left a phone message and that you call them back. It's kind of basic.
Yeah. Lenore, I really liked it when Carolyn talked about how this new connection, well, it probably doesn't feel new now, Carolyn. You're a seasoned participant, but the new connection is like an adjunct to your primary care physician. So, Lenore, if a community provider is listening to this webinar today and they're thinking, gee, I have people in my practice who aren't connected with any clinical programs or research, but they might be, what's your advice for a healthcare professional who might want to introduce this topic to a family?
Yeah, so we're there to help. I mean, anybody, any professional, any clinician can reach out to us through email or through the website, and we'll follow up with them, and we make ourselves available to either directly help patients and families if they want to make a referral, or we're there to support them so that they have the answers and the resources and the information they need so that they can make it available. Different physicians are at different levels. Some want to have resources available at their office and some just want to send them on. But we've developed a second opinion clinic because, we don't want to take patients away from any primary care doctors or any specialists who have those patients. We want to support them. So our goal is to really do whatever it is that they need to support them to make it easier for them to do the work that they do. And, we really see them as partners in this fight. And they don't have to know every detail about every study. That's what our researchers, that's their job. They just need to know that we have a lot of resources available and that, by just being aware of them, they're opening that door to opportunities for their patients and families, and, providing them access that not everybody is lucky enough to have. And that's really what we're trying to do, is to really open those doors and make research availability an opportunity for everybody who wants it,
And that is the perfect message, I think, to end our program today, that support is out there. If you are a person living with a diagnosis, if you're a caregiver, a family member or friend, if you're a healthcare provider, there is support and connection. You don't have to have all the answers. There's a team, a community ready and waiting to provide that support and connection. Well, Nancy, Carolyn, Lenore, thank you for being a part of our webinar series. You've inspired me today, and I hope this is going to build stronger and more connections in our community.
Thank you, Katie. It's an honor for us to work with you. So
wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you, Carolyn.
Oh, always my pleasure. Always. I could have my own YouTube channel just to talk about what I think.
You could.
This work. I could. I won't, but I could. I'm leaving it up to the experts. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
All
we
right.
couldn't do the work without you, Karen.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
The Massachusetts General Hospital Frontal Temporal Disorders Unit is a clinical research program dedicated to providing the highest quality of care while working tirelessly towards a cure for frontal temporal dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and related disorders. All of our educational resources are available free online, and you can find them on our website, ftdboston.org. Thank you for being a part of our program today. Until next time, take care and be well.